Does anybody have any question for Soyasini or for me?
Soyasini, the quote, I didn't hear it fully. All people are trained. What's the first part?
In the critical situation, don't rise to the level, to the heights of our expectations. We fall down to the level of our training.
Let's write that down. Stick it on all the walls, especially in the bedroom areas. There was an interview with Zen Master Sungsan. I think it was made in the early or mid-90s at Hwagesa because he still looked pretty healthy. And it was a Korean professor interviewing him. They were sitting outside. And one of his questions to Dae Sanim was, you travel all over the world all the time. How have you managed yourself changing time zones? Big changes in time zones all the time. And it was interesting the way he answered because I saw he just said, he kind of thought for a moment. He said, I think it's because of my routine. He kept a very regular routine, a practice. Of course, he had incredibly strong inside practice. So even when he was sick in the hospital, you could see that, how can I say, there was no moment where there wasn't awareness of what's going on, not just outside, but inside him. And so here, we may not like the schedule, or you may find it difficult sometimes, but if you can keep, really make a strong effort to follow the schedule, it will give you some confidence and ability inside yourself to pay attention. When I was in my younger 20s, I was really unhappy with myself and also the state, although I was in a very good, comfortable, in a sense, comfortable situation in America. I was very distressed at the world and what we did to each other and what we did to each other inside America and what America was doing that time. There was the war in Vietnam also. And I wanted to become clear. I knew of Buddhism, but I hadn't ever studied anything in Buddhism. But I had been very touched when I saw a Buddhist statue when I was 11 and felt this person understands suffering and what to do about it. And I hadn't yet mobilized myself to go looking for a teacher, which I did when I was about 26. But before that, I wanted to wake up and become clear and be clear all day. And so I thought to myself, well, I could join the army, you know. I mean, some of you here have been in the armies of your countries. You know, you don't have a choice. You have to, once you're there, you have to do it. And you wake up. But I thought, I don't want that direction. I want something, some other direction. And that's what practicing is, you know. We're in a situation, and especially in retreat, there's something that we have to do. And it gives us the chance not to make our own mind up, not to be controlled by our opinion. In Korea, they say there's 3 kinds of jail. The first jail is what the criminals go to, people who break the law or get blamed for something they didn't do. They end up in jail. The second is the army, Some of you, all you Israeli guys have been in the army. Some of the older Polish people. 2 Russian guys have been in the army, and luckily weren't in the country when the war started. That's also a prison because you can't hold your own opinion. And the third is Kyolche. But you've probably found that you can sit Kyolche and still hold your opinion, just like you can in jail, you can in the army. But this gives us an opportunity to see our opinion and put it down and return to what is my job right now. And that is how you can become more clear. And you can begin to see, as probably you're doing, what your body does, what your thinking does, what your emotion does. Because if we don't see that clearly, then it's really easy to be controlled by stuff that comes from outside, television. I also read that some of the captured soldiers, this is way early last year in Russia, the Ukrainians were doing an interesting thing. They take a hand phone and call the soldier's mother and say, I'm so-and-so in Ukraine, and here's your son. And they put him on. And when they were, BBC was interviewing some of the Russian soldiers, they talked about many people back home just had a television head. It just went in. Of course, I saw this in America growing up too, with a lot of the various issues. Just something goes in your head and that's how you think. That's because we don't reflect on that. And it's not just from outside. It's the karma we carry into this life because we made something in our mind and we carry it. The Western religion doesn't have, that only has present and future. But Buddhism has past. It's not like me, Dae Bong, was somebody, but there's some karmic chain that we're creating right now, and that will pass into the future beyond our death and create another body. It's not like there is a self or a soul or something in Buddhist teaching that continues. The way the Sixth Patriarch talked about it is, it's like you have a candle with a flame and you light another candle. Originally, this flame causes this one to light, but immediately it's different. It has different conditions. We even asked Musangsa once, do twins have exactly the same karma? And he said, well, for a moment they begin, but even inside their mom, they're in slightly different areas. They might be picking up, the biological stuff that goes on differently. I remember we asked him about clones. If somebody's a perfect clone of you, do they have the same karma? And he says, only at the one moment. After that, it starts becoming different already. We had two, I know some twins in Korea who were, they're dancers. Actually, they came to visit this winter. I hadn't seen them in a few years. One time they performed at our entertainment in the afternoon of Buddha's birthday. But they started a meditation group at Ewha University years ago. And they would invite me to come and give a talk. And one time I went up there and we had a program. And at the end I was giving out, maybe some of you have seen them, I carry around these Kwansen Bosa gold cards and Bodhidharma gold cards. And I give women the Kwansen Bosa gold card and the men Bodhidharma gold card. Recently somebody told me the daughter she's not sure she's male or female, so I gave them both and said, well, give them both to her. And, but in any case, and I have a whole little rap about how it's your credit card for universal, you have a bank account in the Universal Bank, not Bank of Korea, Bank of America, the Universal Bank, and you have infinite money in that account. but it's not won or dollars or what do they call it in Israel? Shekels or zlotys or Russia rupees. Yeah, ruble. I kind of mix them. It's embarrassing. I mix up Indian and what do you call it in India and Russia? But in any case, money, it's universal energy. It's Dharma money, and it's infinite, and you can always get it, but you need a credit card to get it. And the thing about these credit cards is they work after you die. They keep working. But in any case, I was giving out, it was all women, so I was giving out these Kwanzaa Boso cards, and one of the twins took a card, and the other twin immediately grabbed it from her and said, "You already have one," and gave it back to me. And I knew immediately which twin came out first and which came out second. Because in the Confucian society, it's a big deal. Who's the older, who's the younger, even among twins. Now, maybe that's starting to disappear, but it was immediately clear. And I asked them, I said, "Are you older?" She said, "Yeah, like 5 minutes or something." But the Mangde, the young one, is me. No, it's true in my family. I was talking to one of our students in Hong Kong, and she has 2 children. One is 2 and one is like 5. And the little one wants whatever the older one has. Even at that age, So it's just so natural. It's just natural, unless the little one gets hammered too much and then they just hold back. But if they're not getting hammered, then they just naturally, I want that, And older people do their older thing, I'm the oldest. I always felt bad for Dae Jinsenin because he's the oldest in his family, so he kind of wants to run things, but I'm older than him. And I became a teacher first, so I felt a little bad for him, Maybe if he was the second one, he wouldn't mind having me around, So, but you have to understand yourself. That's very important, The aim is realize my true nature and moment to moment help others according to circumstances. But so we say get enlightenment. But I've heard Musangsa say sometimes, understanding your karma is more important than getting enlightened. Because then you can live a more skillful life, a more beneficial life. So you have to be able to recognize what's popping into your head. They don't get it. So they hear something, a lot of people hear something, boom, it comes out. They've never digested it, never chewed on it. Is this really true? Even Buddha said, don't believe anything just because I say it. Don't believe anything because an authoritative, person says it or because it's in a book that everybody praises. You test it yourself. If it's truthful, if you find that it's truthful, then make use of it. If you find it's not truthful, throw it out. So this is like, our life is like a big science project. We have to investigate what's going on in this body and mind. It was interesting to see Musangsa, first of all, be able to connect with people so incredibly well, even moving into different cultures. Yes, sometimes it took some experience for him to learn the way people thought and were, I remember when Koreans would ask about Europe, of course this was decades ago, sometimes Westerners think, oh, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Vietnam, they're all the same, this kind of thing, which is to somebody living in Asia is ridiculous, Well, Europeans would say the same thing. Americans, depends maybe where you came from, or a variety of other things. But Sansanin would always say to Koreans who might have thought 40 years ago, oh, Europeans are Europeans. He'd say, when you hit the moktak 10 minutes before meditation, in Spain, all the men watch the women. When the women go in, then the men go in. If you hit the moktak, 10-minute moktak in France, people come in about 15 minutes later. If you hit it in England, everybody waits to watch who's going to go first. And if you hit it in Germany, they're already sitting inside, and all the shoes are lined up very correctly. So everybody's different, and individually we're different. And you know, even in your family, you're very different. And you're different from time to time. Well, when we practice, if you're curious, if you're watching, if you're paying attention, if you have a question, if you have what we call don't know mind, you can begin to see yourself. I have it's funny because Wu Bong once said he liked working with me because I wasn't that competitive. But I can be very competitive around sports, you know. I enjoyed that when I was young, and I got in fights, and I started fights, and I lost fights, and I won and I lost, and it was great experiences. But something about teaching, I don't feel that way. I like having other teachers around, and then you guys get exposed to a lot of different people. I learn from, as well as learning from you and myself, I learned from other teachers. But anyway, one day, I don't know how many years ago, I was going up to the Buddha Hall, and I was about to go in that center door, and a Korean woman, I don't know how old she was or anything, but she walked in front of me, and I saw this thought appear, "Why are you walking in front of me?" And I was shocked. It's like, what kind of a thought is that? You know, in traditional Asian thing, yeah, that's correct. Many years ago, I think it was 93 or 87 or something, Sansanin invited a Japanese Zen master from Los Angeles, his friend Maizumi Roshi, to Hwagesa. And we were going around, and he was showing Maizumi Roshi all the little Buddha halls. And they were in front of the Nahanjan. If you've been to Hwagesa, you know it. And it's got all these little statues. And the center door was open, and the two of them were looking in because there was a picture, a kind of large, almost painting maybe, of Sun Sansanin's teacher who was dead. And Sansanin was pointing it out. "Oh, that's my teacher." And a Korean nun stuck her head in front of the two of them, which is very impolite. Nowadays, I have no idea how people would relate to that. But Sansanin just went, whop, and hit her on the head. Now, I know with most Americans, he wouldn't do that because they get pissed off. But the nun immediately understood what she did. You know, she just stuck her head in front of these other two people because she was curious. And she backed off, and Sansanin wasn't holding it at all. Now, he might hit somebody who really believed in him from the West, but in Korea it didn't even matter because it's so deeply the culture. You know? So you have to be paying attention. You know, and then you see these thoughts and things that appear in your mind, and just seeing them, they have less control over you. That's very important. Bodhidharma said awareness itself starts to change the hold that your thoughts, your feelings, your body condition, and this world have on you. Otherwise, you're a TV head, either from society or from your own karma. You're just a TV head. And then you die and nobody knows what happens next. You know, whatever you're holding pulls you into another existence.